What did you do, Daniel?
Maya, everything okay?
I'm fine.
Maya, where were you last night?
You've been investigating me?
No.
I-
Hello?
Daniel, we have a problem. Someone has reopened the file. Now you know how it feels.
Feel the night Officer Daniel Carter received the city's highest commendation. Everyone in the ballroom believed they were watching a perfect American success story. Cameras flashed, police officers applauded. Community leaders shook his hand. His wife, Maya Carter, stood beside him in an elegant black dress, smiling proudly as her husband accepted the award for exceptional service. But behind that smile, Maya was fighting a feeling she could no longer explain. Something was wrong. Daniel had spent 12 years serving as a police officer. He had pulled strangers from burning cars, responded to violent calls when everyone else was running away, and spent countless nights protecting neighborhoods that most people only remembered when something went wrong. Maya had always understood the weight of his badge. She also understood the sacrifices behind it. She had watched him leave home before sunrise. She had waited through late-night shifts. She had listened when he came home, exhausted after dealing with people at their worst. And through all of it, Maya had believed that the man she married was the same man the public saw when he put on his uniform. That belief was about to crack. As Daniel stepped away from the stage to speak with a group of senior officers, Maya noticed his phone vibrating on the table once, twice, then again. She glanced down the screen, displayed a message from an unknown number. She knows we need to handle Maya before she talks. For 3 seconds, Maya couldn't breathe. She read the message again. Then a third time, she didn't touch the phone. She didn't panic. She didn't confront Daniel. Instead, she slowly lifted her eyes and watched him, laughing with his fellow officers. That was the moment something changed inside her. Maya had spent years believing that being the wife of a police officer meant standing beside the badge, supporting the man behind it, and understanding the pressure that came with protecting others. But being a strong black woman had taught her something else too. You can love someone deeply without ignoring what your instincts are telling you. And you can respect a badge without becoming blind to the person wearing it. If you're enjoying stories where truth, courage, and justice matter, subscribe to the Justice Verdict, because sometimes the most important part of a story isn't what people see. It's what someone has the courage to uncover. Maya quietly picked up Daniel's phone. The message was still there. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. The words were enough. Someone knew her name. Someone believed she had discovered something. And someone was already discussing how to silence her. Maya placed the phone exactly where she had found it and looked toward the ballroom. Across the room, Daniel was surrounded by officers congratulating him. One officer slapped him on the shoulder. Another raised a glass. A senior commander proudly introduced him to a local official as one of the finest officers this department has ever produced. Maya listened from a distance. For years, she had believed that Daniel's badge represented service, discipline, and responsibility. And she still believed those values mattered, because she knew what good officers did. She had seen officers protect children, comfort families after tragedies, run toward danger when ordinary people were desperately trying to escape it. She knew the badge itself wasn't the enemy. The problem was, what happened when someone used the authority of that badge for something it was never meant to protect? Maya looked back at her husband. Daniel suddenly turned toward her. Their eyes met. He smiled. Maya smiled back, but this time her smile was different. Daniel saw the woman he had known for years. He didn't see the questions forming behind her eyes. He didn't know that Maya had already memorized the message. He didn't know that she had noticed the unknown number, and he certainly didn't know that. For the first time since their wedding day, Maya was no longer looking at him as simply her husband. She was looking at him as someone whose secrets might soon need to be investigated. The music continued. The officers continued celebrating. The cameras continued flashing. And Maya stood quietly beside the man everyone trusted, already realizing that the most dangerous secrets are often hidden behind the most respectable smiles. 2 days after the charity gala, Maya woke before sunrise with the same message running through her mind. She knows we need to handle Maya before she talks. She had barely slept, but fear wasn't going to make her careless. Maya understood something many people learn only after being betrayed. When the truth is dangerous, emotion can become your greatest weakness. If Daniel was hiding something, Confronting him without evidence could destroy the one advantage she had, his belief that she knew nothing. So Maya did what she had learned to do throughout her life. She stayed calm, she listened, and she waited. By 8 that morning, Daniel had already left for work. He kissed Maya on the forehead before walking out, just as he had done hundreds of times. "Long day," he said. Maya smiled. "Be safe." The words sounded ordinary, but neither of them understood how different their marriage would feel by the time Daniel returned home. That afternoon, Maya met with a retired federal investigator named Marcus at a quiet coffee shop several miles from the police station. Marcus had spent decades investigating misconduct, financial crimes, and cases where powerful people believed their positions could protect them from consequences. He listened without interrupting as Maya explained everything: the message, Daniel's strange behavior, the unexplained late-night calls, and the growing feeling that someone was watching her. Marcus didn't immediately accuse Daniel of anything. Instead, he asked one question: "Do you have proof?" Maya looked down at the table. "Not enough, then don't confront him yet." Those words stayed with her, because Maya didn't want revenge based on suspicion. She wanted the truth, and there was a difference. She knew most police officers entered the profession to serve their communities. She had seen that side of the badge herself. She had watched Daniel help families, protect victims, and comfort people during the worst moments of their lives. That was precisely why this situation hurts so much. When someone abuses public trust, the damage doesn't stop with one victim. It stains the reputation of the people who actually honor their oath. Marcus slid a photograph across the table. Maya looked at it, her heart stopped. It showed Daniel meeting a police supervisor 3 months earlier. The meeting had taken place on a night. Daniel had told Maya he was working an overnight shift. She stared at the photograph. "Where did you get this?" Marcus answered quietly. "Public security footage. Someone thought it had been deleted." Maya looked closer. Daniel wasn't alone. A second man stood beside him, and on the back of the photograph was a handwritten date and time. Maya immediately recognized it. It was the same night Daniel had come home at nearly 4 in the morning and told her his unit had responded to an emergency. For the first time, Maya realized the message on Daniel's phone might not have been about her at all. It might have been about something much bigger. She took the photograph and placed it inside her purse. "Does Daniel know you have this?" Marcus shook his head. "Not yet." Maya nodded. "Good." That evening, Daniel came home angry. He threw his keys onto the counter harder than usual. "Maya, where were you last night?" She looked at him. "Why you didn't answer your phone?" Maya calmly poured herself a glass of water. "I was out with who?" She turned toward him. "You weren't home either." Daniel froze for just a second. The confidence disappeared from his face. Then it returned. "You're avoiding the question." "No," Maya said. "I'm asking you the same question you asked me." The silence between them became heavier. Daniel stepped closer. "You've been acting strange." Maya looked directly into his eyes. "Maybe I'm finally paying attention." He didn't answer. Instead, Maya reached into her purse and placed the photograph on the kitchen table. Daniel looked down. His expression changed instantly. The man who had stood confidently in front of cameras 2 nights earlier was suddenly silent. Maya watched him carefully. She didn't shout. She didn't insult him. She didn't threaten him. She simply asked, "Why did you lie about where you were that night?" Daniel picked up the photograph. "You've been investigating me." Maya shook her head. "No." She stepped closer. "I've been investigating the people who thought they could destroy me." Daniel stared at her for the first time. He seemed to understand that the woman standing across from him wasn't the frightened wife he expected. She was Maya, a black woman who had spent years learning that dignity doesn't mean remain silent, and strength doesn't always look like confrontation. Sometimes strength is patience. Sometimes strength is collecting the truth. And sometimes strength is knowing exactly when to let the evidence speak for itself. Daniel reached toward the photograph. Maya pulled it back. "You should be worried," she said quietly. "About what?" Maya held his gaze. "About what happens when someone more powerful than me sees what's inside this envelope." Daniel's face tightened. "What envelope?" Maya said nothing, because the photograph wasn't the evidence that frightened her anymore. It was only the first piece. There were financial records Marcus had mentioned. There were missing surveillance files. There were unexplained payments. And there was one name, appearing repeatedly in documents connected to Daniel's unit. A name Maya had never expected to see. She had not yet told Daniel that she knew about it. She had not told him that copies of the evidence were already stored somewhere he could never reach. And she had certainly not told him that someone outside the police department had begun asking questions. Daniel stared at Maya, waiting for an answer. But Maya simply picked up the photograph and walked away. Behind her, Daniel's phone began to ring. He looked at the screen. The caller ID was blocked. He answered hello. There was silence on the other end. Then a man's voice said, "Daniel, we have a problem." Daniel's eyes moved toward Maya. The voice continued, "Someone has reopened the file." Daniel slowly lowered the phone, and for the first time, he realized that whatever he had been trying to hide from Maya was no longer under his control. The next morning, Maya walked into a federal building, carrying the same folder that had changed everything. She wasn't there for revenge. She was there because she had finally understood something more important than revenge. When a person abuses trust, the strongest response isn't anger. It's accountability. Maya sat alone in a quiet conference room, her hands resting on the folder in front of her. Inside were photographs, financial records, call logs, and copies of documents connected to Daniel's police unit. She had spent years believing that a badge represented courage and service. She still believed it because Maya knew the difference between a bad officer and a bad system. She had met officers who worked double shifts to protect strangers. She had watched police officers comfort grieving families, rescue people from dangerous situations, and put themselves between innocent people and violence. Those officers deserved respect. But when someone wearing that same uniform crossed the line, the answer couldn't be silence. The door opened. Marcus Reed walked in. Behind him was a senior federal official carrying another folder. "Maya," Marcus said, "we reviewed everything you gave us." Maya looked at him, and the official placed the folder on the table. "There is more." Maya opened it. Her eyes moved across the first page, then the second, then the third. Her expression changed. The evidence showed that Daniel had been meeting privately with the same police supervisor. From the photograph, money had moved between accounts, connected to people under investigation. Several surveillance records had disappeared shortly after Daniel accessed them. But one detail disturbed Maya more than anything else. Her name appeared in one of the documents, not as a witness, not as a suspect, as someone they had been monitoring. Maya slowly closed the folder. "So this was never just about my marriage." Marcus shook his head. "No, it was about what I might discover exactly." The room became silent, then the door opened again. A man entered, surrounded by security personnel. Maya immediately recognized him, the CIA director. He walked to the table and looked at the evidence without touching it. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Finally, he looked at Maya. "Mrs. Carter, your husband made a serious mistake." Maya's voice remained steady. "What mistake?" "He believed your silence meant you were unaware." Maya said nothing. The director continued. "He underestimated you." That sentence hit differently, because Maya had spent days wondering whether she had been foolish to trust her husband. Now she understood something. Trusting someone didn't make her weak. Choosing to seek the truth after that trust was broken made her strong. The director placed a recording device on the table. "We recovered this from a secured location." Maya pressed play. Daniel's voice filled the room. "She'll never find out by the time she understands what's happening. Nobody will believe her." Maya closed her eyes for a moment. Not because she was defeated, because she finally had the truth. The man she had defended for years had been counting on her silence. He had mistaken her patience for weakness. He had mistaken her love for blindness. And he had made the most dangerous mistake of all. He underestimated a woman who had nothing left to lose except the fear he had tried to create inside her. The CIA director looked at Maya. "You could have walked away." Maya shook her head. "No, why?" She looked toward the window. "Because if I walked away, someone else could become the next Maya." The room went quiet. That was the moment the story stopped being only about one marriage. It became about responsibility. About the courage to speak when silence is easier. About the officers who honor their oath every day. And why their work becomes even more valuable when people are willing to expose those who betray that oath. Maya wasn't trying to destroy the police. She was demanding that the badge mean what it was supposed to mean. Service, integrity, protection, justice. The investigation continued for weeks. Daniel was eventually confronted with the evidence he thought would never surface. The supervisor who had helped him was removed from duty, pending investigation. And the records Maya had protected became part of a larger federal case. But Maya's greatest victory wasn't seeing Daniel fall. It was realizing that she had found her voice. Months later, Maya returned to the same community, where she and Daniel had once been celebrated as the perfect couple. This time, she stood in front of local residents and spoke about accountability. She told them that good police officers deserve support. She told them that victims deserve to be heard. And she told every young Black woman in the audience that strength doesn't always mean fighting louder. Sometimes, strength means standing still when someone expects you to break. Sometimes it means documenting the truth when nobody believes you. And sometimes it means refusing to let someone else's abusive power determine who you become. Maya looked into the crowd. I didn't win because I destroyed someone, she said. I won because I refused to become the person they wanted me to be. That sentence stayed with the audience. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think Maya did the right thing by staying quiet long enough to collect the evidence? Or should she have confronted Daniel immediately? Tell me your answer in the comments. And tell me what kind of justice story you want to see next. On the justice verdict, if this story made you think about trust, courage, police integrity, or the strength of women who refuse to be silenced. Subscribe to the justice verdict and turn on notifications, because every story we tell has one question at its heart. When the truth finally comes out, will you have the courage to stand on the right side of it?